Hey, what's up? This is a build showcase for my Warbringer Wolf. Before we start, I'll just quickly go over my ratings for the build. So it's definitely a 5 out of 5 on clear speed. Clear is fantastic. Maybe a 3 out of 5 on bossing. The single target could be better, but it's more than surpassable. I was able to do all content with it, including all Ubers. It's 5 out of 5 for gearing. The gearing is really straightforward. It makes a fantastic league starter. I don't have any plus to level of melee gems on my gloves or amulets. I don't use a Defiance of Destiny, no plus to Spirit on my amulet or chest piece. The talisman is a deterministic craft. The rest of the gear is essentially just life, armor, and resistances, and the build feels incredible with Headhunter. In fact, I took it off for the background footage you're watching now, but I will put it on for the next map, and you will immediately see the difference. If you think the clear is pretty good now, just see for yourself. Things you can expect from the build: it does all map mods, it feels incredibly tanky, no thanks to having defensive itemization on essentially every gear slot, and it's just a smooth, enjoyable experience. It's on all content, super easy for me to gear and trade, and will probably be just fine in SSF. Hardcore viability is questionable, but so is hardcore playability, XCD. So onto the build itself, we're playing a Wolf Shapeshift, using the new talismans obviously, with a focus on having really good clear speed, passable single target damage, and really good defenses. Sadly, because we are life and armor based, there is some content that will just one-shot you. This is normally just from the Citadel bosses, specifically Geonor. With some map modifiers, the hits can be upwards of like 15 to 20k elemental damage, which is basically right at our maximum hit taken. If you don't run any map mods on your Citadel bosses, then it's completely fine, but that's to say this build is hardcore limited, as are most life and armor based builds in hardcore. The other 99% of the time, we feel absolutely immortal, combining a high armor pool, chill, freeze, and a good life pool. The playstyle revolves around upkeeping buffs, and normally this can be kind of tedious for other wolf builds, but Warbringer's Ascendancy kind of trivializes that because our Warcries don't necessarily have a cooldown. Then, after upkeeping your buffs, you just kind of leap from pack to pack to clear the entire screen. If you're curious how this build differs from similar Oracle-based Wolf setups, essentially we sacrifice much of the single target afforded by Inevitable Critical and the incredible tree that Oracle gets in order to prioritize an even smoother mapping experience, arguably better defenses, and an incredibly easy gearing. The clearing is held up by Herald of Ice and Armor Explosion, which is an interaction that normally requires a decent amount of setup and investment, but Warbringer's inherent armor-breaking ascendancy makes that mechanic super easy to set up. This mechanic, by the way, probably won't be in the game for much longer, so play it now while you can. In fact, most people using this mechanic were under the impression that it was already nerfed from 0.4's patch notes to no longer work, but it turns out to not have affected things at all. Other builds use this interaction, but they tend to be reliant on some expensive and hard to acquire lineage gems, or they end up not having enough damage or armor break for consistent screen-wide clearing, which is the main goal here. If you played PoE 1, this feels exactly like old Explodey Chest. If you know, you know. The mainstay in the build for clear and single target is Lunar Blessing. This skill is kind of ridiculously strong. It defines a core part of the Wolf Shapeshift form. Besides just being a strong buff on its own, it also rains orbital cannons from the sky, which will kill things and clear up your clear off your screen, and it truly feels like 20 seconds of auto bombing. If you've played Bear and you liked Walking Calamity, you'll love this. For single target, we mainly use Shred, but there's an optimal raid rotation, so to say, which involves marking and then freezing and then shredding and then cross-slashing. Almost every wolf build is going to do this rotation this way, and it is pretty much designed from the very ground up to be super strong. For the Ascendancy, we are obviously a Warbringer, and I know some of you are probably wondering as to why, especially considering Titan is an option and will, in almost all situations, have better damage and survivability due to things like hulking form and 15% more max life just built in. But Warbringer gives us free armor break, making the armor explosion setup much easier. We get a little bit of defenses from the 10% fizz damage reduction, and the ability to ignore cooldowns on Warcries means our Lunar Blessing uptime is 100%, our Rage uptime is 100%. Sadly though, the Encasing Jade guard doesn't actually work with a talisman, so we're just using it for the 10% physical damage reduction. We also use the Keystone Lord of the Wilds to equip a Scepter for a free Purity resistance. It also gives us some extra attributes as well that we can socket in and have as a mod on the Scepter. And then we get you know, free spirit reservation support gems into our purity for things like cannibalism, precision herbalism, stuff like that. You will need an increased spirit node on the scepter to reserve everything, with the downside from the keystone, but we only need 40% extra spirit as the scepters have a base of 100 added spirit already. If you need more details, I linked a pop in the description.